8:45. This is the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. The news edited by G. Yogaraj and read by Lavani Vijayatunga. First, we take a look at the headlines. Finance Ministry issues clarifications on taxes on fuel and LP gas, which commence from the year 2024. Operation Yuktiya nets over 17,000 suspects. All sluice gates of the Parakrama Samudra opened. Emergency sluice gates open in Kalaweva. Thai Prime Minister to travel to Sri Lanka to sign an FTA in February. Colombo consumer price inflation increases to 4% in December. Liquor prices to go up from January. And in news overseas, Russia carries out large-scale offensive on cities across Ukraine. And in sports news, baseball nationals from 6th January. Those are the headlines, and now let's move on to the details of the local news. The Ports and Airports Development Levy (PAL), currently imposed on fuel and gas, is set to be removed upon the implementation of the revised value-added tax. Accordingly, the 7.5% PAL on fuel as well as 2.5% PAL imposed on liquefied petroleum gas will be lifted, with the increase of 18% VAT comes into effect from 1st January 2024, Advisor on Tax Policy to the Ministry of Finance, Tanuja Pereira, explained. The VAT amended bill was passed in the Parliament on the 11th of December by a majority of 45 votes, with 100 MPs voting in favour and 55 voting against it. The bill subsequently came into effect as the VAT Amendment Act No. 32 of 2023. Accordingly, a hike in VAT up to 18% from the current 15% has been green-lighted. Thailand's Prime Minister Srettha Thavisin is scheduled to travel to Sri Lanka to sign a free trade agreement in February 2024 after the successful conclusion of the latest round of negotiations between the two countries, Bangkok Post reported. The Director General of Thai Commerce Department of Trade Negotiations has told the media on Thursday that Sri Lanka hosted the 9th round of trade negotiations from December 18th to the 20th. This was attended by the Director General of Thailand's Department of Business Development and advisor to FTA negotiation team. Negotiations for the trade agreement between Sri Lanka and Thailand resumed in November after being put on hold for 4 years consequent to the COVID-19 pandemic and the ongoing restructuring of Sri Lanka's state-owned entities. The Director General of Thai Commerce Department stated that the latest round of talks have agreed on the rules on trade, services, investments and economic cooperation. The stretch of road between Gallala and Manampitiya remains inundated due to the overflow of the Mahaveli River as a result of the heavy rainfalls in the area. Vehicular movement along the Polonnaruwa-Batticaloa road between Gallala and Manampitiya was restricted to heavy vehicles starting at 2 p.m. yesterday. The traffic division of the Polonnaruwa police, however, took measures to close the stretch of the road traffic as the inclement weather still prevails. Due to the prevailing downpours in the Polonnaruwa district, all 10 sluice gates of the Parakrama Samudra have been opened by 2 feet each in the afternoon. The motorists travelling to Batticaloa are urged to use alternate routes via Giritale, Alahara, Bakamuna and the Hiyatta Kandiya. Meanwhile, with the high rainfall in the catchment areas around Kalaweva, emergency sluice gates were opened 16 feet each on the instructions of the Boathanna irrigation engineer. According to the irrigation engineer, the opening of the emergency sluice gates in Kalaweva, about 13,443 cubic feet per second of water is being released. This is the news from the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. And we continue with more local news. Sri Lanka's overall rate of inflation measured by the Colombo Consumer Price Index, CCPI, on a year-on-year basis has increased to 4% in December from 3.4% in November. Meanwhile, the year-on-year inflation of the non-food group dropped to 5.8% in December from 6.8% in November. For the month of December, the contribution to the inflation by food commodities was at 0.1%, while the contribution to the non-food items was at 3.9%. The Department of Census and Statistics said this was mainly due to the increase in the value changes in the groups of housing, water, electricity, gas and other fuels, education, clothing and footwear, alcoholic beverages, tobacco and narcotic, recreation and health, culture and miscellaneous goods and services. A decrease in the value change was reported for the groups of transport, furnishing household equipment and routine household maintenance, restaurants and hotels, and health. Further, a slight price increase was reported in the group of communication during the month. The prices of all liquor products manufactured by the Distilleries Company of Sri Lanka plc are expected to go up from the 1st of January 2024. Accordingly, the prices of all DCSL brands of liquor will be increased by 90 rupees, 50 rupees and 20 rupees per 750 millilitres, 375 millilitres and 180 millilitres respectively. The increased prices are slated to come into effect following the imposition of the revised value-added tax. The VAT Amendment Bill was passed in Parliament on the 11th of December and the relevant tax was thereby approved to be increased by 3% from 15%. Conducting tuition classes, seminars or workshops for the 2023 GC Advanced Level Examinations will be prohibited from midnight today until the conclusion of the exams. The Department of Examinations has also announced that the distribution of model question papers and publishing of model questions via electronic and print media will be prohibited during this period. Legal action will be taken against individuals or groups engaging in such activities. The 2023 GC Advanced Level Examination is scheduled to take place from the 4th to the 31st of January 2024. And to conclude the local news, let's get back to the headlines once again. Finance Ministry issues clarifications on taxes on fuel and LP gas starting from the year 2024. Operation Yuktiya nets over 17,000 suspects. All sluice gates of the Parakrama Samudra open and in the emergency sluice gates open in Kalavawa. Thai Prime Minister to travel to Sri Lanka to sign the FTA in February. Colombo's consumer price inflation increases to 4% in December. Liquor prices go up from January. And that was the local news.
The main news story is brought to you by Sinhala Vedamahatma.
The main news story for tonight: in a sweeping 12-day Operation Yuktiya, law enforcement agencies have apprehended a total of 17,837 suspects, making it one of the largest crackdowns in recent history, according to the official police reports. Among the detained individuals, 850 are currently undergoing further interrogation under the detention orders. The operation yielded substantial results in the battle against narcotics, with 10 kilograms of heroin, 6 kilograms of ice drugs, 5.288 kilograms of cannabis, 2,110,500 cannabis plant, 118 kilograms of mawa and 31,271 narcotic pills were seized and taken into the police custody. Furthermore, the operation targeted individuals involved in illegal assets, leading to the investigation of 186 suspects, while 1,187 drug addicts were directed to rehabilitation centers. And that was the main news story.
The main news story was brought to you by Sinhala Vedamahatma.
This is Watchlight.
The National Dengue Control Unit on Tuesday announced that the average number of daily dengue cases detected in the country had increased to 335 last month. A total of 8,728 dengue patients have been reported in the last 25 days, the NDCU said. Altogether, 85,216 cases had been reported from 1st January to the 25th of December 2023, they said. Most of the dengue cases are reported from the Western Province. And that came to you in Watchlight.
Coming up, World News.
Headlines of the World News: Russia carries out large-scale offensive on cities across Ukraine. UN chief calls for global unity in New Year's message. Tokyo's Haneda Airport busy with year-end travelers. Those are the headlines, and now let's move on to the details of the World News. Russia has carried out a large-scale offensive across Ukraine using missiles and other weapons. Ukrainian authorities say the attacks have killed at least 16 people. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky said in a social media post on Friday that Russia used nearly every type of weapon in its arsenal, including missiles and drones. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres has called for global unity to make the year 2024 a year of building trust and hope. The UN chief released a video message for the new year on Thursday. Guterres expressed a strong sense of crisis, saying 2023 has been a year of enormous suffering, violence and climate chaos. He said, "Our planet is in peril," adding that the 2023 is the hottest year on record and people are getting crushed by growing poverty and hunger. Wars are growing in number and ferocity. Tokyo's Haneda Airport was bustling from earlier on Friday as year-end travelers left for hometowns or vacations. This is Japan's first year-end and New Year holiday season since the government downgraded COVID-19 to the same category as seasonal influenza. All Nippon Airways and Japan Airlines say domestic flights leaving Haneda and Osaka are fully or almost fully booked for the day. And that was the world news.
Development news.
In development news, Sri Lankan Airlines will add 4 new aircraft for their fleet by end January 2024, bumping up its total aircraft capacity count to 25, a release from the airline said. Firstly, today, a newly leased Airbus A320 aircraft bearing the serial number 4RABS was added to the fleet. That was the development news. Sports news coming up.
Moving on with sports news.
The eagerly awaited 2023 National Baseball Championship, organized by the Sri Lanka Baseball Association, is all set to kick off on 6th January 2024 at Japan-Sri Lanka Friendship Baseball Ground. This year's championship will feature the spirited competition of 19 teams, promising an action-packed and thrilling event for all baseball enthusiasts. The tournament will follow a knockout format, adding an extra layer of intensity to each game. That is the sports news, business news coming up.
On the first day of the new year 2024, when you make your first deposit in any SPE, you will receive a token gift. May this new year bring you happiness, joy, and abundance of savings. National Savings Bank.
Business news, sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
In business news, the Commercial Bank of Ceylon has been adjudged the best SME bank and the most innovative digital bank in Sri Lanka for the year 2023, rounding off a year of prestigious international and local awards. The latest accolades were presented to the bank by Global Business Outlook GBO, a leading UK-based information provider on critical events and developments in the business world. This is the 5th occasion that Commercial Bank has been honoured by Global Business Outlook. That is the business news. Economic news follows.
Business news, sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
On the first day of the new year 2024, when you make your first deposit in any SPE, you will receive a token gift. May this new year bring you happiness, joy, and abundance of savings. National Savings Bank.
And now in economic news.
Sri Lanka's merchandise exports increased by 4.4% to $968.8 million in November 2023 compared to October 2023 as per the provisional data released by Sri Lanka Customs. However, it is a 2.67% decrease when compared to the value recorded in November 2022. The estimated value of the services exports for the period from January to November 2023 was $2,908.61 million, increasing 68.72% over the corresponding period in the year 2022. The services exports estimated by EDB consist of ICT BPM, construction, financial services, and transport and logistics. That was economic news and the weather report to conclude.
Weather report.
And finally, the weather report. The Met Department says showers will occur at times in the northern, north central, eastern and Nuwa provinces and in the Hambantota district. Several spells of showers will occur in the Matale and Nura Eliya districts as well. Fairly heavy showers, about 35 millimeters, are likely at some places in the eastern and the Nuwa province and in the Hambantota district. Showers or thundershowers may occur at several places elsewhere over the island after 2 p.m. Fairly strong winds, about 40 km per hour, can be expected at times in the eastern slopes of the Central Hills and in the northern, north-central, eastern, Uva and southern provinces. Misty conditions can be expected at some places in the Sabaragamuwa, central and western provinces and in the Galle and Mathura districts during the morning hours. The public is kindly requested to take adequate precautions to minimize damages caused by temporary localized strong winds and lightning during thunder showers. This weather report was published this evening at 7:30 p.m. Further details could be obtained by visiting the official website of the department. And before we conclude this bulletin, let's get back to the headlines once again. The Finance Ministry issues clarifications on taxes on fuel and LP gas starting from 2024. Operation Yuktiya nets over 17,000 suspects. All sluice gates of Parakrama Samudra opened and the emergency sluice gates opened in Kalaweva. The Thai Prime Minister to travel to Sri Lanka to sign FTA in February. Colombo's consumer price inflation increases to 4% in December. Liquor prices go up from January. In news overseas, Russia carries out large-scale offensive on cities across Ukraine. And finally on sports news, baseball nationals from 6th January 2024. And with that, we conclude this bulletin of news. And as I head over back to your regular Friday evening host, Southie, on the last Friday for the year 2023, let me wish Southie all the very best for the year 2024. And dear listeners, to you too.